Okay, the first thing we're starting with is evaluating transformed formulas. We started this the other day. We used literal equations. So we're going to go back to that thought. You're going to start on page 10, problem 68. They give you the formula, A equals H over N. They tell you what each letter stands for. So A stands for your batting average. H stands for the hits, and N stands for the number of times. Here's the formula they gave us. Remember, step one is they want us to solve for H. So the first thing we need to do is draw a line down the middle. Remember, we're always working on the side of the variable in which we're looking to solve for. So we're solving for H. Therefore, we are going to start on the right hand side. H is what I have to keep, and it has to end up alone for us to complete the problem. So because I'm dividing by N, to undo division, you will do the opposite. So we are going to multiply each side by N. Remember, I always put mine in parentheses. That's just a reminder for me to make sure that I know that I'm supposed to be multiplying. Yesterday we talked about when two letters are being multiplied together, we can't really come up with an answer, so we put the letters together. We want to put them in alphabetical order. So on the left hand side, we should have A, N, because that means they're being multiplied together and they're in alphabetical order. Equal side, on the right hand side, we have crossed out the letter N, leaving us the variable H. The equation has now been solved correctly because the variable that we wanted alone, H, is now by itself. So that is solving for part 1 on H. So our equation for part 1 is H is equal to A times N. Now they also have us wanting to do a substitution. The second question asked, let me move it up so you can see it a little bit better, says that the batting average is .625 and the batter's batted 200 times. How many hits has he had? So we now have to substitute. That's where this information here comes in handy. We know his average is .625 and A stands for his batting average. So in our new formula, H equals A times N, we're going to substitute in for the letter A his batting average, which was .625. We also know that he batted 200 times. N represents the number of times that he batted. So, excuse me, where N is, we are going to replace that with the number of times that he batted, which is 200. This is multiplication. So for me to find H, I now need to multiply those two together. So if you guys have your calculators, go ahead and get them out and multiply the .625 times 200. That will give you an answer of 130, which means that he got 130 hits out of 200 times at bat. I'm going to give you a minute to leave that up there so you guys can get it copied down. Okay, now we are going to go to, staying on page 10, we are going to go to problem number 70. They gave us the formula, N equals 7 times L times H. So it's important for us to know what the letters represent. So the letter N from our story problem in your book represents the number of bricks. L is represented by the length, and H is represented by the height. So we now need to solve for H. So we put our line down the middle. Again, H is what we need by itself. So therefore, we need to be dealing with the right hand side, because that's where the variable is that we're chasing. We want to get that one alone. So we have to look and see what the 7 and the L are doing to one another, and they're being multiplied. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So therefore, we are going to divide each side by 7L. Now that we've done that, on the right hand side here, I can cancel out the L's and I can cancel out the 7's. So that means H is now alone, which is what we wanted. And I bring down this problem because we can't get an actual numerical answer unless they give us something to plug into it, which they are going to do in just one moment. I'll slide that over just a little bit to make sure everybody sees the problem. So the second part of the problem says, what is the height? Remember, that's H of the wall that is 30 feet long. So that means that we need to replace the L with 30 feet, and we need to replace N with the number of bricks. So when I go down here, I'm going to substitute in the number of bricks, which was 2,300, I believe. Let me check real quick just to make sure that we have that problem right. 2,310. So N is 2,310. Division sign, the 7 stays, and the length is replaced with 30. And that's going to equal H. So we now need to do our problem. So 7 times 30 is 210. And then we're going to take on our calculators 2,310 divided by 210, and that is H equals 11. So when we solve for H equaled 11. And put it down there instead. So we already solved for H there. So I will leave that up there for a moment so that you guys can look at that. And then we'll be moving on to the last section that we need to have taught before we do the study guide.